Hi guys. So you probably notice I have harmony on the pallet jack back here. Makes it pretty easy to move harmony around when I need to do work on her. I don't know what made me think of it today, but it's kind of the perfect size, and I can raise it up, move it where I need to, and then put it back down. So here's what I'm going to talk about. This was my RC car. This little guy served me well for a couple years. I had fun with the kids playing with it. I played with it. But when I started looking at the furling problem for harmony, I realized I need a way to open the blades. I need a way to close the blades and do it in increments, maybe, closing 15% or closing 10%. And I started thinking about what I would need for that. I didn't want to have wires tethered from the turbine blades down to the base, because then you have to get into split nuts or whatever those things are called, and they can be expensive. So I started thinking, well, how could I do it with wireless? And of course RC came to mind, because I've flown RC airplanes all my life and run RC cars. This little unit right here, believe it or not, has everything I need inside of it to get harmony to do all of the furling and unfurling. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the motor, maybe a little bit of the gearing and the housing holding this little motor. I'm going to take the radio, and then I'll have the battery connected to this, and I'm going to attach all of that to the underside of harmony. Sorry, there's a little bit of oil running down in here. What we're looking at, see if I can hold this up for you. This is the worm gear mechanism, okay? It's got the worm gear and the larger mating piece. They go together like this. Let me see if I can get my fingers out of the way. So I'm trying to figure out how I want to mount this on here. And what I'm probably going to end up doing is mounting this unit on the side here. And then I will machine a few pieces and parts that are going to allow me to hold this in the position it needs to be. I'll put the RC motor here, whether it's gearing up to it or not, but this is already something like a 50-to-1 relationship. Every 50 revolutions on the main shaft are going to produce 1 revolution here. It might be 200-to-1. I don't even remember. I'll find out. But at this point, it's not important. It's just a lot of turns here equates to just 1 revolution here. And the bonus is, whenever it's spinning and I stop this motor from turning, then you're actually going to get the holding capability where this isn't going to want to move. It's not going to want to slide or or spin at all. It's going to be held locked in that position, which is perfect because that's what I want to do on Harmony. When I begin to unfurl Harmony, it's basically going to be unfurling to a certain amount that I want, and then it's going to stop. So the cool thing about this is I will be right back. I'm going to have this little controller in my hand right here, and when I pull the trigger this way, I'll be able to, let's say, start furling the blades closed. And when I push the trigger that way, it'll start opening the blades back up. So this RC car has every single thing in it that I already need to make Harmony furl and unfurl wirelessly. All I need to do is make sure the mechanics that I put underneath here are going to be balanced and securely held, because it's going to be spinning, obviously. And then once I have this main furling shaft here, this PVC tube sticking out is what I call the furling shaft. Once I have this all working correctly so that this shaft is spinning, then inside what I'll do is I'll actually glue or fix those furling gears to the shaft so that they can no longer spin in relation to that shaft. So you're going to see me over the course of the next 2 days, hopefully, transform this RC car into the furling mechanism for Harmony. Hi Mark, how's it going? At this point, I don't have a lot more to show. I just wanted to kind of give you guys an update, say hello, let you know that I am still here, still working on things. I've been busy lately with a lot of stuff that's been going on, but the cool part about some of the early machining that I did was that this test cut, when I was playing around with my CNC, actually gives me the exact X and Y profile to fit right onto the bottom of here. So all I need is to get 1/2 inch short, little 1/2 inch screws, or cut off ones that I have that are too long, because these holes here are already tapped in the bottom. So I'm just going to shorten up some screws so that I don't go too far through this material, secure this mounting block or mounting plate on the bottom, and when I take those 2 screws out, I can remove it and work on this independently of the rest of the large mechanism here. So it allows me the freedom to sit here and assemble this whole thing independent from Harmony, which is great because it's a prototype, and you want to make a prototype easy to mess with, easy to work with. So this will allow me to sit there and get my furling mechanism working correctly with the RC, and then when I'm all ready, just basically attach it to the bottom here, 2 screws, and it's ready to go. It's ready to rock and roll. Once that furling mechanism is on, then the final remaining piece is going to be the main steel shaft. The 1-inch steel shaft goes in through the furling tube, and then I will have to build out a little bit of framework around this, the solid structure here on the bottom, to come down a little bit further and then lock onto and attach securely to that steel shaft, for 2 reasons. One, we don't want anything to go down any lower than where we set it and where we lock on. So we want to kind of have a a bottom platform, if you will, a very bottom base of that steel shaft where everything is then riding on top of it. All the weight of Harmony is held by that. And then once that securely, you know, I could use pipe clamps, it doesn't matter, hose clamps, sorry. I could use anything. I could take and machine out a circle that has a split in it, and then I could use set screws to tighten that up, kind of like a collar, a split nut collar. It doesn't matter. However I figure out how I want to attach securely to that shaft, then all of the weight of Harmony is resting on that one connection at that point. And the framework of Harmony becomes each of these plates, the two steel rods that are coming up through to the next plate, two more steel rods to the next plate, and so on and so forth. So her Harmony's skeleton is really the aluminum plates and the steel rods holding everything together. I'll do more videos, probably, maybe I'll even do live streams tomorrow and Tuesday. I'm off of work tomorrow and Tuesday, so I'm going to be working on this and machining the parts needed to get my furling mechanism up and running. So I'm kind of excited. I wanted to share it with you guys, let you know this is where I'm at right now, and all of the furling mechanism inside of Harmony is assembled. The only thing that hasn't been done is I did not glue those, it would be 8 furling gears, the small furling gears, in place. They're already on the furling tube and set, they're just not glued into place. I've been giving some thought to whether or not I want to actually glue them, or maybe make a piece that would ride on top of, think of like another piece of PVC that has a slit down it, and I would put that on kind of as a C collar that goes around it, and then, I don't know, I'm giving that a little bit of thought, trying to come up with how I want to do some way to positively attach my furling gears to the furling shaft. But if I glue them in place, then if I need to take the prototype apart for some reason, it's going to be a real pain in the butt because they'll be glued onto the furling shaft. I don't know. I have to give that a little more thought. It's okay. It doesn't matter. It's a prototype, and I just have to keep it functional. I have to keep it easy to maintain. So, Mark, I believe it was your suggestion about using dowel rods to assemble it last time. I did play with that a little bit, but then I found after I had done a little bit of cleanup on my links, each of the rods that were the spacer pieces that were going together, after I made them all the same exact size and did a little bit of cleanup on that, it went together like a dream. I didn't even need the dowel rods. It might be a great suggestion going forward for in production, you know, when we're doing low volume production and we want to assemble these things in a fairly expedited manner. So I will keep it in mind. Thank you for the suggestion. If you want to come work for the team when we get it up and running, I think you're in England, aren't you? Or Europe somewhere. I don't know. So, will you not have the problem of pairing the handset to the receiver after powering up every time? No, basically with the RC car, they're on a locked channel. These are, this little guy has a number 1, which is tied to the number 1 there. So literally all I would do is turn this handset unit on, and then turn the radio, which would be on the underside of Harmony, on, and boom, it would be locked. Immediately I would have control of it. This is, again, just the prototype. We're not talking anywhere down the road when this would be in your house or something. Yeah, you're in the UK, all right. Well, you could come over to the States for a year or two and work with the Harmony project and, you know, have a little bit of fun over here. Might be an interesting adventure for a while. But this is just for the prototype. I don't plan on having something like that in your house. It's just so that I can make it easy for me to do the prototype. It's not going to be anything more than a demonstration unit. When it's spinning, I'll be able to open and close and furl and unfurl the blades while it's spinning, and we'll be able to see how it reacts in 10-mile-an-hour winds and 15-mile-an-hour winds. And maybe we're going to find that being 10% closed is the best optimal performance, and we get the most speed and torque out of it being 10% or 15% closed in a 10-mile-an-hour wind. But in a 12-mile-an-hour wind, it needs to be 22% closed. Who knows? That's the kind of cool data that I'll be able to collect once we have a working prototype and I can actually do the furling and unfurling. I may have to get together with perhaps Penn State and see if I can use their wind tunnel, if they would allow me time in their wind tunnel. Worst case scenario, I'll strap it to the back of my pickup truck. No joke here, guys. I really do mean that. Because the little cart down below is going to be what holds Harmony, and I could tie that in and strap that into the bed of my truck, and then Harmony would be locked down in and plugged down into that. So I could literally drive down the road at 10 miles an hour and 15 miles an hour and 20 miles an hour to test it like a poor man's wind tunnel. Yeah, it's, you have to think creatively when you don't have money and you don't have a lot of resources at your disposal. So I'm trying to do that. My goal, like I said, over the next 2 days is to get the furling mechanism working, and then I could actually demonstrate that here for you guys. I could put it, on the steel shaft and just have it sitting on my, I have that big, you can actually see it in the background. It's the, a lathe collet from, or a chuck, I'm sorry, a lathe chuck from, I can't remember the name of it. It's a massive lathe. It's like this huge 17-inch chuck or 16-inch chuck back there. It weighs like 120 pounds. But at any rate, I could lock Harmony down into that, lock the steel shaft, and then, not that we would want it spinning or anything, because that thing would just tip over and out in the wind, but I could demonstrate the furling and unfurling while it's locked into that down here for you guys. So maybe if I make good progress and my son doesn't break too many things on his four-wheeler and keep pulling me away to help fix him and weld things, maybe I can get the furling mechanism built, and then we can demonstrate that as soon as I get it done. It would be really cool to see the feedback from that. Louise, I hope I'm saying that right. Do you go by Louise or do you go by Rodriguez? Anyway, hello. Thank you, wherever you're from. So, Mark, you were saying you're thinking it was a digital system. Are you talking about the commercial units? When I was speaking of, there's going to be a Raspberry Pi unit that's going to control the furling and unfurling. If you're still there. Okay, well, the RC is, whether it's digital or analog, this one's actually analog, it's just a little bit older technology, but whether it's digital, the 2.4 gigahertz digital RC or what you would call binary system, they really operate the same way. Once you turn on your transmitter, then you turn on the receiver, those two pair up and you're good to go. A lot of my little helicopters are that way. You have to turn on the transmitter, turn on the receiver, or turn on the helicopter, and then you'll see the little blue light come on in 3 or 4 seconds. That's the binding or pairing process, but once that's done, then it's no different than an analog system. This being an analog, because it's on a specific set channel, all it does is you turn on the transmitter, then you turn on the car, and boom, you're instantly linked up. So it's fine, it'll work the same way, and it'll do, both of them would do the same exact thing. They would allow me to open and close Harmony as I want to. It's going to be a little bit more medieval when it comes to this prototype than it will be when we get money and get funding, but obviously I'll have to do something like tick marks on the bottom blade or something so that when I open it, it'll show me visually that I'm 10% furled or 20% furled or 30% furled. And that type of a system isn't ideal, but it'll get me the data for prototyping nonetheless. So I'll be able to tell how much I am furled and unfurled. I could probably put little, I don't know, I could do Hall effect switches or things like that at different intervals. I don't know, I'll have to give that some thought so that it would be nice to get direct feedback, maybe even have a Raspberry Pi unit tracking exactly how much I am furled and unfurled. If we get funding, then the next thing I would do is replace this little RC getup with a true servo motor, and then that servo motor would actually, I would calculate exactly how many revolutions it takes to fully open harmony and fully close harmony, and then you could control it down to the absolute, 1/10 of a degree or 1/100th of a degree. It would be like my CNC machines at that point. I would say I want to open 10%, and boom, it would be exactly open 10%, or I want to open 20%. I'm not at that stage, and I'm not going to be at that stage with this prototype unless I would put some serious money into the furling, and it really isn't going to do a whole lot of extra good for me at this early stage, because it's just about gathering the data. It's just about figuring out in this wind speed, having it furled this much gives you the optimum performance. And once you plot that out and get your curve, then you can take it to the next level with your, your second round, your if this is the alpha prototype, then you have your beta prototype, your what is it, kappa prototype and delta prototype. But in any way, your Mark 1, your Mark 2, your Mark 3, you keep improving. But I need to get a little bit more funding before I move into those things. Okay. Yeah, and Mark, I don't know if you fly RC and do anything, but when you change your batteries on your little helicopter and stuff, it is essentially losing power, and there is no backup battery system in them. As soon as I plug in a new battery, boom, it is paired back up. So it does have some sort of non-volatile memory that allows it to repair automatically, and it shouldn't be a big deal. Even if I was using a digital system here, which I'm not, it wouldn't require repairing. This one is going to be super simple. I've run this car dozens of hours, and it'll be easy. It'll be perfect. I'll just turn it on, and boom, it'll be ready to rock and roll. Well, I'll let you guys, maybe you guys can noodle it out and see if you can come up with some very simple ways for me to know on the fly how much I'm furled and unfurled. It'd be nice to have some kind of feedback system, whether it's an electronic feedback system or not, that I could indicate where I am in the furling and unfurling. The other thing, I will have to put on this some kind of limit switches so that I don't accidentally go beyond fully opened or fully closed and then strip off one of my furling gears, because that brass worm gear at the bottom is just going to exert so much force on the system that it could end up breaking something. So I have to be careful not to go too far with it. But I'll be very careful. And if need be, you reach out and stop harmony from spinning, and then you could carefully adjust and set the furling state and let it go and let it get going again. So there's a number of ways to attack that problem. It's not a big deal. Juan, I don't know if you're still with me, or Louise. Thank you both for joining. If you guys have any questions, please ask. Please go ahead and ask. I'm not going to do a real long live stream here. Just wanted to show everyone what I was doing, what I was thinking, and then I'm going to begin manufacturing a few simple parts on my CNC behind me to allow that furling mechanism to actually come to life. So it really shouldn't be hard, just a little bit of ingenuity and MacGyvering something together, cobbling it together, and I should have a working furling system in pretty short order. Okay, well, if there aren't any further questions, I'm going to go ahead and sign off at this point. Thanks for the few of you that did watch. I always appreciate when people are taking the time out of their busy day to sit down and listen to me ramble for a little bit. And my hope is that it's never rambling, but it's actually something you appreciate and gain value from. I'm sorry, I always apologize, you know, especially these last 2 months for how long things have been taking, but I am doing my best. There's been a lot of things going on this summer, and I am making good progress. It's just been slow, so I do apologize for that, and hope that no one's too upset with me, but I am going to share the updates as I continue working today, tomorrow, and Tuesday on the furling mechanism, and hopefully you'll see some exciting stuff coming out of the workshop here in the next 72 hours. All right, guys, I don't really have anything else I can think of at the moment, so I'll sign off for now, and yeah, that's pretty much it. You're welcome, Mark. Thank you for joining. I know, I can't wait to see it up and running as well. It's literally the furling mechanism and then cobbling together some silly cart. You know, I've got a little supply, a small supply of scrap metal over there on the shelves, and I have my friend who owns a machine shop down in Mount Joy that I can go and get stuff from, but I need to weld together some sort of little cart that I can mount the generator inside of, and have some tie downs on it so that I can put straps down to the, you know, maybe 4 stakes in the ground to hold it from tipping over, or the back of my pickup truck if I'm running it in my pickup truck. But really, the cart's not going to be anything more than just a little cart that you would see someone have, like a vendor selling hot dogs on the street corner or something. It's going to be a small cart with a generator inside of it, and then room for electronics if I have a Raspberry Pi and stuff like that. Probably a 4-to-1 V-belt setup, you know, a small V-belt pulley to a larger V-belt pulley. Actually, it'll be a large to a small, because I have to do probably a 4-to-1 or a 5-to-1 every revolution, or I'm sorry, every like 4 revolutions. No, I'm saying it backwards. Every revolution on Harmony would produce either 4 or 5 revolutions at that generator. That should get it up to the RPMs needed to actually be in the range that it operates at. I just bought an off-the-shelf 3-phase, I think it's just a 3-phase AC generator for wind turbines last year, and that's what I'm going to be using initially to do the testing and get the data for Harmony. So again, that's where we're heading, and I'll keep you updated. Thank you. Take care, guys. Have a good evening.